Hi, welcome to VYAPT Growth Series, Season 2, Episode 58. In our growth series today, we have with us Mr. Krishna Srinivas, the SVP of Corporate Technology Center at Tube Investments of India Limited. With more than 3 decades of experience covering operations, engineering, and business management, he has been instrumental in turnaround of various businesses, and his immense passion for technology and people is seen in his working style. We'll learn more from him. Join me to welcome Mr. Krishna Srinivas.
Hi everybody, it's a
Namaskar.
pleasure to meet you. Namaskar.
Uh,
Namaskar Pankaj
we
ji.
are glad to have you on our platform, and a lot of curiosities, a lot of learnings from going to come from you about your organization as well as the industry which you have served for more than 30 years. Uh, I'll start with the first curiosity, Krishna ji, is what are the growth prospects of TII, and how is it creating value for its customers?
This is a very interesting question, Pankaj ji. Uh, about 5 or 6 years ago, we had come up with a strategy where we
Okay.
said we would define
Mm-hmm.
uh, the things that we want to do in a very granular manner and have it owned throughout our businesses. And the way that we had come up with it was we said we would have TI1, TI2, and TI3 as a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
TI1 had to do with improving the core business. TI2 was to look at step outs and sunrise businesses. And
Mm-hmm.
TI3 was to look at inorganic acquisition whenever we could get, let us say, good prospects on the market. Maybe if you could acquire something at 30 cents to the dollar at the right time, it would make great sense. So that was the way we had actually planned to create value to stakeholders. And when we started this activity way back, I think 2017-18, we looked at certain matrices which we had to get right. And these
Mm-hmm.
matrices were growth, profitability, return on capital employed. Later, it turned to return on investment that was being made, and we had to look at free cash flow.
Okay.
So we were looking at growth, profitability, ROIC, and free cash flow. So this is what we were looking at. And then we defined some more matrices as we came along and said, for this, we should be looking at a talent engine, a growth engine, and a cash generation engine. So these were the things that we actually defined to ourselves. And this was accepted across the company by all the employees who were working in business units. That included the technology stream, of which I am a part. So that was how this actually started. And we went about first getting our act in place by looking at the core business. There was a lot of things that were done to actually bring up the profitability level and the return on the capital employed at that point in time, and also to improve our free cash flow to almost reach the level of our profitability. So that gave us the impetus and the charge that was actually required to start off on our growth path. Then we looked at some acquisitions. CG Power, in particular, was a good acquisition that we
Yeah.
made, which is worthy of mention. Then, in terms of the sunrise step outs, we started looking at electric vehicles, which was perhaps the single largest step out, where we said we would become an original equipment manufacturer. And this afforded us a very good opportunity. So, this was the way we went about getting started on creating value for our stakeholders. The effect of it was very clear on the market, and at the same time, we were looking at various step outs and creating business leaders in the group. So we have now defined our target, saying that we should probably be $100 billion company by about 2040 or 41. So
Oh,
that is something that we are probably looking at, which is a 30x or 40, 50x kind of growth. So that's the kind of target that we are looking at. We
so
want to grow.
50x, 50x
Yes,
kind of a growth in 17 years time.
yes. So
Okay.
it is a wild target, and we intend pursuing it. And we have a granular strategy to go about this. So the team is also getting added to. Some parts of the team are getting revamped. Then there are people who are joined, from venture capital agencies or places like SBI Capital, etc. And these people are helping us in our journey, because we also realize, that when we want to grow or have this kind of growth, we need a growth engine, and that includes people who have the capability to look at things a little differently.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you talked about in detail around your strategy. What is the group looking at in terms of the strategy part of it? What is the roadmap, and where do you want to see yourself in another 17, 18 years time? That's quite a magnificent thing which you are looking at in terms of the growth. But when you talk about growth, I'm sure, Krishna ji, you must be looking at a lot of innovation, because 50x is the kind of growth when you're looking at. I'm sure a lot of innovations are required, not only into the existing businesses or in sunrise businesses, but everywhere, wherever the footprint is of the organization. So what are the new innovations happening to manage the present? That's one. And to create the future, which you guys are planning to do.
Ah, Another good question. Yes. See, when we're looking at innovations, we're looking at innovations in the product arena. We are looking at innovations in the business segments that we actually want to play in. We are looking at innovations in the servicing arena. We are looking at enhancing our customers' experiences. We are looking at higher performance products, and we are looking at newer materials. So these are
Mhm.
probably the things where we are looking at it, let's say, from the technical point of view. From the business point of view, I had already stated in my last answer the way we are actually going about this strategically. If I were to look at new products per se, we looked at electric vehicles. We started
Mhm.
working on electric vehicles in 2017. It was a modest effort at that point in time. In our corporate technology center, we had our the then MD, Mr. Subayan, Mr. Velayan Subaya, who actually
Mhm.
talked to us about this. And he felt that this is something that could become much, much larger. So Mr. Velayan Subaya, guided us on this, and he said, "Why don't you look at, making this into a business for TI?" And that's
Mhm.
how the electric vehicle business actually started out. And over a period of 4 or 5 years, we looked at a few acquisitions of a few startups. Some of the things were homegrown. So we have now got into the area related to three wheelers. We are looking at electric tractors. We are going to be looking at heavy vehicles, which go up to about 55 tons. And we are looking at the last mile connectivity and the smaller commercial vehicles also. So Mr. Velayan Subaya was the person who actually helped us articulate this in detail, and he also, resourced the effort. And after that, whatever happened is history. We have been making a few acquisitions. We've also got a few investing partners on board, and this has become a new company called the TI Clean Mobility Private Limited. And we are hoping in a few years that it becomes a star performing original equipment manufacturer, which delivers high value to its customers. When we're looking at servicing, we've been looking at digitizing most of our work at TI, and we're trying to get performance matrices on screen live. So there are so many things that have been going on, and the performance is also available for people to actually see and relate with. So you have a more granular access to information, and information is the new fuel for growth. It's very clear. So the kind of data that we are piping and we are actually analyzing is really wonderful. Then we are also looking at enhancing customer experiences. So let's say a guy buys one of our electric vehicles. He has on his fingertips his driving performance. We are able to give him over the air updates uh,
Mm-hmm.
that are actually required. The same thing is likely to happen in our manufacturing area also, where you have people who are going to be working on tablets and keying information. So you have a lot of non-value added activity getting removed. We are looking at a new generation of hydraulic tube manufacture in India. So a lot of things that were predominantly being imported is now going to be made in India. We have invested in a large diameter plant. So that is in the tubes area. Then we are looking at making high performance chains for areas like two wheelers or for transmission or for material handling. We are also going to be looking at using new age materials like high strength steels, composites. So these are some of the things that we are looking at physically as innovations that we are going to be working on over the next few years. And we are hoping that this will help us garner a very good market share also.
Okay. So if I have to understand the entire part of it, TII is not just a brand, but it's a brand of brands. Okay, one brand of several different brands coming into picture as you pursue your interest of growth into various other sunrise businesses which you're looking at. And you just talked about the various innovations across different businesses happening within TII. uh, as we are talking around innovation and the growth of the business, one thing which the entire world is looking at is in terms of sustainable business, not only in terms of how the business is functioning, but also in terms of the environment as well. And that's where my third curiosity lies, is how is the group working towards sustainable future, and what are the employment opportunities is it creating as it pursues its growth path ahead?
Mhm. Um, For starters, we started looking at ESG reporting in our company as part of the global reporting initiative. So
Mm-hmm.
that was an important shift that occurred a couple of years ago. And we have created roles across the organization to take interest in this. And
Mm-hmm.
our activity is being monitored and reviewed by the managing director as part of a monthly or a bi-monthly kind of activity to get
Okay.
things, to get the fire started. So that is it. But the important thing here is Mrupa Group is a group which is grounded, in India and the Indian psyche. So there was always this consciousness uh, prior to our starting off, or calling it ESG. After all, even before oxygen was called oxygen,
It
it
existed.
was always there, or it existed. So we had this idea of the Panchabhutam, we call it in Tamil
Mm-hmm.
Nadu, where
Mm-hmm.
you look at the air, water, land, fire, and space. So you could loosely, describe it as either energy and let's say space.
Panchtattva.
Yeah, and there are so many things, and as long, I mean, this is real wealth in any
True.
place. So we started looking at various things. Initially we said, we should have all our energy coming from the sun in some form
Mm-hmm.
or the other, which means that we have to be looking at either solar energy or wind energy, and we also want to reduce our carbon footprint. So at present, I think we are somewhere near 45% or so in terms of renewable energy. We want to take it up all the way up to 100.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to use the sun as long as the sun is there. In India, we have about 300 clear days in a year, and Surya Bhagwan is obviously the source of all there is on the planet. So we are
True.
trying to bank on him for power. We have been channeling resources, investments, contracts into encouraging the use of solar power. We are
Mm-hmm.
also waiting for some states to announce their policies in these areas. It's common knowledge that all states don't yet have a policy which is supportive of industrial activity in this area. We are expecting it to happen. We are looking at the circular economy also in a big way. We want recycling to pick up. We are using much less plastic than we used to. We are looking at opportunities to actually, work with our own group companies to recycle some of what we call is our waste. but it becomes the wealth of other people. Then we are looking at collaborating with our own supply chain partners, and we're looking for people, or we're driving them green, is one way of
Mhm.
putting it. The other way is to, collaboratively support people who have similar thought processes and encourage them also. There's quite a lot of employee training or engagement which has been taking place, because the first thing is to sensitize the employees. So we've had a slew of training programs to take this forward. Over the last 3 years, this has been happening. Then we are looking at water usage in our company in a very big way, and we're trying to reuse all the water that we are having, which
Mhm.
means, some of the legacy systems like cooling towers and all that have to be revamped. And we said that we would look at the newest technologies. So we are starting and to have periodic audits of all these things, and there will be a phased change of technologies which are involving sustainability, so that, we can use water or reuse water, clean some of the things. Maybe some of the chemicals that are being used can be sold for downstream use in other industries. So we're looking at a slew of such initiatives. We are also hiring experts in this area, either to audit us or to guide us, because it is not necessary in this day and age for us to know everything. So it might not really be possible. So we are aware of that. Then we are looking at new technology innovations in this area also, like process optimization. You know that we're a company who's about 75 years old, and some of our processes may need improvement. And there are so many other new technologies which have come, which will cause us to reduce the energy that we are actually consuming. We are working with Japanese consultants. We are also having long-term programs which will run for
Mhm.
years, so that, we can look at understanding these things. We are producing or encouraging subject matter experts who will be able to, establish this in one place and then laterally deploy it across 19 of our manufacturing locations across India. We have a few more locations which have actually come up. So we are looking at those initiatives also. That is another thing. We have also entered a few industries, like, the medical area, or we have also entered into things like, optoelectronics. So these are all high tech areas where we are learning new things. We are learning new standards of cleanliness. We are understanding new levels of efficiency that we did not know we had in us before. So these are some things that we're doing. We are also looking at extended responsibility as a producer. So, for example, the plastics we use, the wood that we use, any natural resource we use, we try to become zero discharge on any of these things. So nothing that we use should actually go waste, is the thought process we're working
Mhm.
with. Another thing is the kind of job opportunities that we are looking at. Maybe we have a skill development center we have put up. You will be able to see it on LinkedIn profiles and all that. So we have a skill
Mhm.
development center. Uh, of late, I think we've coached about 120 people or so, roughly. Uh, we started with a batch, and then 70 people, I think, have left the system. Within 2 months, they have become employable. So that is something that we're doing, and we are trying to employ them in areas related to new technologies. For example, if you're getting electric vehicles, we are trying to coach these guys to be good electric vehicle mechanics. They also get an
Mhm.
opportunity or a shot at being employable in my own company, failing which they can be employed by my distributors, by my dealers. So there are so many things that we are trying to do in that direction. The second is we are getting into R&D related to sustainability. A good example is a company called X2 Fuels, into which we have actually invested. It is a startup from IIT Madras. So the idea is a kind of a waste to wealth initiative that we are working on. So we are looking at processing municipal solid waste or even oily waste from factories, etc. And we want to change this contaminated waste into fuel. Imagine the kind of uh, green output that we are actually generating. And the ultimate objective is to perhaps have these things set up in waste plants, or the huge places in cities where they actually have a lot of municipal solid waste accumulating. And the dream is to have this functional there and convert that into fuel while getting rid of the waste. This is something that we have also invested in. Then we are looking at people for supply chain oversight. So for all these things, we actually require people, and we are
True.
getting them. So for supply chain oversight, people who have actually understood what is it that we are trying to work on sustainability, we have brought in. Some of them have been with us. They've been in the US earlier, they've been in the UK earlier, and they have now come and joined us. And we are looking at green technology. We are looking at teams and specialists from these areas to come and join us. So it's a little bit difficult driving the steel industry green, but it is well worth the effort. So we are also into a lot of processing of steel. So we are coming to understand this in greater detail. There is also a community outreach. We are looking at sustainability initiatives across communities, local communities, places where we are actually present. And of course, we have got into publishing of our environmental compliance. We are a large corporate with very strict rules. So automatically, this becomes a self-feeding kind of initiative. And we see this gathering momentum because it is receiving the attention of the top at this point in time. And once it settles, we are hoping it is going to become a good corporate practice. So this is something
It's
that we're working on the sustainability side.
Yeah. So you talked about on the sustainability part of it, and also on the kind of employment opportunities which the group is generating as it pursues its path for growth ahead. Now, after our talks on growth and sustainability as well as on innovation, I would like to move forward to our rapid fire round. 10 questions coming to you has to be answered in one word, maximum a sentence. Are you ready?
Yes, why not?
Okay, so here we go. So I'll start with your first question in a rapid fire. What would you do if you found yourself in an unknown place when you woke up in the morning?
Reboot, debug, find my location, and get my Wi-Fi on.
That talks more of a technology person in you.
Yes, it does.
So I move on to the second one. Have you ever faked sickness and taken a day off at work?
Never, never. It has never been a need for me.
Move on to the third one. What would be your reaction if you come across someone who looks exactly like you?
It's a glitch in the matrix,
A
and
glitch in the
nature has a sense of humor.
okay, okay. So now the fourth one is, if you had to work in a movie, which movie would it be, and what role would you play?
It would be a science fiction epic,
Okay,
like Star Trek or Star Wars or something. I would like
okay.
to be an astral inventor traveling the stars.
Astral inventor. Okay, good one. So I move on to the next one is, if you could turn any activity into an Olympic sport, okay, what could you know what could get you a gold medal if that was possible?
This one's a
Any
difficult one, but I would say that thinking as a sport,
okay.
okay, very often a person's ability to actually come up with thinking is not
Hmm.
seen as a big advantage. People appreciate physical activity, whereas
Hmm.
activity does lead to results. I think
Hmm.
thinking as a sport is a good opportunity. It
Thinking
should
as a
stand.
sport.
Yes,
Okay, and
why
that
not?
will fetch you, and that can fetch you a gold medal.
Possibly, yes.
Okay, so five questions till now. So we move on to the sixth one. if you could only communicate with your friends using song lyrics, okay, which song would you use?
What a wonderful world.
Okay, what a wonderful world song you'd like to use to communicate with your friends. So six questions. Now only four questions left. Now I move on to the seventh one, and you're doing really well. 6 on 6 till now. If you could bring one fictional character to a family get together, who would it be?
Peter Pan.
You like his character,
Oh, very much.
Peter
Very
Pan?
magical and very family oriented. You did say that we should bring him into a family union, right? So
True,
Peter
true,
Pan
true.
would definitely work for me. Yes.
Okay, so the next one. What's your favorite Indian cuisine?
Undoubtedly, Puri Bhaji.
Okay, move on to the ninth one. Is what subject do you find to be most fascinating?
Physics.
Okay, so the last one. Name a person who inspires you.
Our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, he came up from humble beginnings and he has undoubtedly established India ahead of a lot of other countries. So, yes, I'm a great fan.
True. So 10 on 10 to you in rapid fire round. Well done. Some of the questions were really difficult, but you did not fumble on those questions. Pretty straight answers from your side. And now we'll move on to our fourth curiosity, which is about you as a leader. Uh, can you share us about your exciting learnings and journey so far?
Mhm. See, if I were to look at the things that I learned from the time when I was very young, I had a very strict and highly disciplined set of parents. My father was a professor, and my mother was a lawyer, and it was a conservative family. So, a lot of values were ingrained in my mind even at a very young age, for which I'm extremely grateful to my father and my mother. Then my mother found my wife for me. She is also working as a very senior person in one of the companies in Chennai. She is working as the chief development officer. She's a PhD from IIT Madras herself, and she has given me purpose in my life. I have lived most of my recent life trying to be worthy of her. That's the best way to put it. Then I have two kids. My daughter is a delight. She's married and she's going to make me a grandfather shortly, of which I'm very proud of. And my son, who is a challenge. And he is a guy who has got into uh, brand management. So he is a little bit different from the rest of us. But I'm pretty happy because he's got the same value systems that I have. And my mentors. To start with, I talked about my family. Now I want to talk about my mentors. Starting with my teachers, I think I've had the best of teachers that a person could get, starting from school, going through college, and then in terms of the bosses that I have had, both in TI and in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, in English Electric, I had very, very good bosses who taught me all they knew and more. So they placed life in perspective for me, for which I'm eternally grateful. And to TI in particular, where I've spent about 30 years, and they have given me an opportunity to actually build an institution like TI. So I think this learning that I've had is extensive and it has been extremely joyful, especially my younger colleagues from whom I have learned a lot, because given my age, I have spanned the time when we were actually making radio sets with valves. to semiconductors, and then to ICs, and then to computers, and then to microprocessing, and so many other things that have actually happened. I think I've spanned these ages. I've been actually lucky to go through this kind of searing technology growth pace, and it has been a wonderful life so far, for which I'm extremely grateful to everyone concerned.
Any success mantra which you'd like to share with our audience, something which you feel that this has actually helped you to reach where you are today?
I know this may sound a little funny. The success mantra that I would like to share is for a person to do his duty and leave the result on the table for all to enjoy. So the idea is a person must do his duty, he must work extremely hard. Opportunity must be given to everybody, but it is not possible to guarantee outcome. Therefore, it is very important for a person to learn to do his job well and leave the result on the table for all to enjoy. I think that is the success mantra that I'm looking at. Uh, I mean, it is very close to what the Bhagavad Gita actually says.
True, true. That was really deep. Some of the deep thoughts, as well as the knowledge we shared with us. And also, you shared some of the great strategy pieces. I'm sure many of the business leaders who will be seeing our episode will get to learn a lot from this particular episode. And thank you so much for sharing your time as well as your valuable insights about the industry with us. It was great having you in VYAPT Growth Series. Thank you.
My pleasure, Pankaj. Thank you, and to all the listeners who are going to be listening in to us. Bye bye.